today's meeting, we will be discussing your platelet count. So we've already gone through your WBC, your RBC. Now we will discuss your platelet count class. Now, your platelet count class has two ways to be done. We have your manual method, also known as your indirect method. Now, in your manual method or your indirect method, you are required, kailangan yung gumawa ng tinatawag nating blood smear. So, who here has an idea or has done a blood smear? Sino dito? Has anyone ever done a blood smear? Sino class? None? Wala pa? Okay, so you get a slide. Siyempre, you choose yung frosted. So you can write the name of the patient. Then you get a drop of blood. Then using another slide, you position it horizontally. Then you push it downward. You make, so ito yung slide. After nyo ma-push yan, you make a parang blood smear. So I will teach this to you class on the midterm sa CBC niya. So that's how you make a blood smear. Ito class, just for better understand. So andito yung blood drop. Inikot-ikot niya para ma-spread. Then slowly, the medtech will press it downwards. Okay. Now, for the manual method class, we have two ways or two techniques. First, we have your Fonios. Your Fonios class uses magnesium sulfate plus 1 drop of blood. So itong 1 drop of blood class, this is your blood smear. Class, take note of this. The action of your magnesium sulfate, it prevents platelets from sticking on the surrounding tissues. So yun yung ginaano niya. It prevents platelets from sticking on the surrounding tissues. Class, I have a question. Sticking on the surrounding tissues from that statement or phrase, anong tingin yung blood sample ginagamit dyan? Sticking on the surrounding tissues, what type of blood sample? Is it your capillary? Is it your venous? Or is it your arterial blood? Which of those three do you think? Okay, it's your capillary class. Because remember, your capillary veins contain tissue juices. They are very directly contacted or direct in contact with your tissues. So that's the reason why you use magnesium sulfate. It detaches the platelet from the surrounding tissues. Now I have a question. This is your microscopic appearance of your blood smear. Class, can you tell me what cells are this? Itong mapot lang to. Ano itong mga cells na to? Any ideas? What cells are this, class? Ang cell to, class? Wala. Come on. Okay, it's your RBC. Notice the shape. They are biconcave. They are discoid. Now, how about this one? What cells are this, do you think? Ano sa tingin niyo? Okay, so these are your WBCs, class. Yan ang WBCs niya. Now, your WBCs have their nucleus. Kita niyo yung nucleus, class. Now, I want to show to you, class, yung platelets. So, your platelets are very small and purplish. Yan sila. Class, I want you to take notice of this blood smear pala. This is your RBC, di ba? Na-notice nyo sa gitna, ang laki ng butas. Di ba, ang turo ko sa inyo, your RBC should only have around 1/3 ng central pallor nila. So, parang mga ganyan lang dapat. Pero ma-notice mo dito, specifically this cell, almost 3/4 ng central pallor ang nasakop niya. So, what do you call this type of cell? Based on sa discuss natin last lecture sa hemoglobin. What do you call this type of cell? Di ba meron tayong tatlong klase? Hyperchromic, normochromic. How would you call this cell based on the is it hyper, normo, or hypo? Okay, it's hypo. Kasi class ang laki ng butas niya. To the point that it get bigger, meaning lower yung hemoglobin concentration niya. And if you notice sa smear class, maputla, sobrang pale ng mga cells, di ba? Eh, di ba ang characteristic ng mga red cell niya is either red yan or pinkish yan pag in-state. So dito sa case na to, sobrang putla niya. And you could see, so I think this is a case of a patient with anemia. So no, very low din ang mga WBC. Okay. So that's your Fonya's method. Now let's go to the other technique. We have your Dame-Check method. So again, for this, you're going to use brilliant crescent blue, sodium citrate, sucrose, and formalin. So you have a formula. Platelets counted times RBC count divided by 1,000. Then you have to convert that also to SI, platelet count times 0.001. So remember class, this is the same conversion factor as your WBC. This is the same conversion factor as your WBC. So it uses brilliant crescent blue, sodium citrate, sucrose, and formalin. Platelets counted times RBC divided by 1,000. Conventional platelet count times 0.00. Actually, class, this is not done sa laboratory. Medyo mahirap to gawin kasi you have to take note of your RBC count. So pag hindi mo alam yung RBC count ng patient, hindi mo ito mag-perform. So what we do, I do not recommend this, but this is what we do in the laboratory. You count the platelets in 10, count the platelets in 10 oil immersion objective. Then you sum it up, or you average it by dividing it by 10. Ganun ang ginagawa namin. But then again, this is very inaccurate. Very inaccurate plus. Pero yan ang shortcut namin na ginagawa. You count the platelets in 10 oil immersion fields or objective. Then you divide it by 10. Yan ang ginagawa ng karamihan ng mga laboratories. So let's say in your first oil immersion objective, you found 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Then you add it up. Then you divide it by 10 to get the average. And that is your platelet count in cubic. And now if you want to convert that to SI, you use the conversion factor, which is 0.001 times 10 raised to the 9. Okay? So let's proceed now to your next slide. So after the indirect or the manual method, we will proceed to the direct method, or the one that uses your hemocytometer. So the first method, class, or technique is your Guy and Lick. Your Guy and Lick is a diluent that uses sodium oxalate, 40% formalin, and crystal violet. The formula for this is simplified. Platelets counted times 5 times 10 times 100. So that's the formula for your Guy and Lick. Hindi na kayo magkakaroon ng variations dyan. Plus fixed na yun. Then another one is Rees and Ecker. It uses a diluent made up of sodium oxalate, brilliant crescent blue, formalin. Class, I have a question. Itong crystal violet na to, where do you hear, saan yung una tong narinig sa microbiome nyo? Okay, sa Gramstein. Very good, Ms. Taras. Itong brilliant crescent blue, narinig nyo na ba to? Have you ever heard of this sa iba nyo subject? No? Hindi pa ako. Yeah. Class, I have a question. What do you think does your crystal violet and your brilliant crescent blue do to your platelets? Anong ginagawa nila sa platelets nyo? Any ideas? All ideas will be accepted and none will be invalidated. Pero, anong ginagawa nila sa platelets nyo? So, si crystal violet, ginagamit niya sa gram stain. Bakit meron ulit siya dito sa sa platelet? What does it do to your platelet class? What does it do to your platelet? Any ideas? Come on, una kayo class, try nyo. Walang mamaminusan pag hula kayo. Plus points pa yan sa langit, class. Okay, para maging visible. Alright, pwede. So that's the answer, class. It enhances. It enhances. Yes, pwede, primary stain. It enhances your appearance of platelet. The appearance of your platelets. It enhances your appearance. So that's why, class, pansin niyo yung color ng platelet. So, they tend to become bluish or purplish. Kaya pansin niyo mga ginagamit nila laging color, either crystal violet, nag-affinity within sa mga blue. So, crystal violet, brilliant crescent blue. So, it enhances the appearance of your platelet. Then we have the formula for risk in Ecker. Platelets counted times 10 times 200 divided by 4. Then we have the reference method. We have your Brecher-Cronkite. It uses phase contrast microscope. So, class, ito medyo mahirap gamitin kasi medyo expensive ang phase contrast microscope. May nakagamit na ba sa inyo ng phase contrast? Kaya ako hindi pa. Never pa ako nakagamit. So in this case, class, it uses ammonium oxalate. Ammonium oxalate, class, swells your platelets. So pag nag-swell siya, lumalaki siya, mas madali siyang makikita. And it lyses your RBCs. Remember, ang main purpose ng diluent nyo is to remove the non-counted cells, yung mga hindi binibilang, and to enhance the appearance of the target cells. So ammonium oxalate swells your platelets and lyses your RBC. So kapag tinanong kayo sa exam, what is the action of your ammonium oxalate? It swells platelets or lyses RBCs. This is the most accurate method with an 11 to 15% chance of error. It's pretty high, class, malaki pa rin, but wala eh. Yan ang ano nila. Then the formula is platelets counted times 5 times 10 times 100. So baka iniisip nyo, sir, ang daming formula, 4 na formula, isang indirect, long direct. Kawawa naman kami, sir, ang dami na namin iniisip na formula. Okay, class, to make it simpler, let's just focus on this sa recent examples. Dito na lang tayo mag-focus sa recent examples. Alam ko naman madami na kayong iniisip. Kaya ito na lang ang iyan. Okay? So platelets counted times 10 times 200 divided by 4. So let's proceed to the next one. So your Reese and Ecker method. Blood was drawn at 0.5, diluent to 101. 5 intermediate squares were used. Mamaya class ito to explain ko bakit 5 intermediate squares were used. And 550 platelets were received. So in this case, platelets counted times depth, which is always 10, times 200 divided by your AC. So your ACF is 5. So 550 times 10 times 200 divided by 5. What's the answer, class? Ano ang sagot? What's your answer? get a whopping answer of, give me the SI na the class. Conversion factor class na 0.001. Ano na class? What's your answer? Okay. So it's... Okay, 220 times 10 raised to the 9 per liter. Ang conventional nito class is 220,000. cubic. Okay. So ito lang yung tanda niya. Plus itong 200, this is constant ha? That is constant. Any questions? No? No questions, class? Naintindihan naman? Okay. I'll be posting a video of this mamayang gabi. Okay, let's proceed. I'll show you naman, class, how it is done in the laboratory. Para maintindihan nyo bakit 5 intermediate squares yung ginamit. Now, you're going to prepare your materials. First, for this platelet count class, you're going to use RBC pipette. So this is your RBC pipette class. Class, ano ang lumen nito? Is it narrower or wider? Is the lumen narrower or wider? Is the lumen narrower or wider? Very good, it's narrower. Then you also have your diluent. You have your LYSE and Ecker. So ito yung tsura niya, class. They just made a, gumamit lang sila ng parang temporary container para mas madali, para drop ka lang or ano. Then we have your blood sample, so EDTA. And hemocytometer. Then you have to prepare a microscope. Then if you are required, a mechanical shaker. Actually, class nire-require to ng DOH, but may mga laboratory kasi hindi kayang bilhin yun. So you proceed with the manual mixing, yung inaano-ano sa kamay. Okay. So once you prepare the materials, you're going to aspirate. So using your pipette, you have to aspirate blood up to 0.5. After aspirating blood, you aspirate the diluent to mark 101. So hanggang dito. Yung nakita niyo ko sa nag-mix na yung blood with the diluent. Kasi I have a question. Sa buong picture na to, what's wrong? May mali ba? Yes or no? If may mali, ano yung mali? Okay, very good. Bracelet siya. So, very big no. Very big no. This is a big no. Whenever you perform something in the laboratory, no jewelry. You don't want the bacteria, the virus, the fungi, or whatever getting in contact with your personal abubots. Okay? So after you've aspirated the diluent to mark 101, you mix the diluted blood. So again, ito yung mechanical shaker niyo. So your mechanical shaker moves like this. Ganyan. It's almost the same as your hand, di ba? Ganun. Magganon na lang kayo if it's not that toxic naman. Then you have to remove 3 to 4 drops from the pipette. Class, any idea bakit kailangan ka mag-remove ng first 3 to 4 drops? Ano sa tingin niyo yung reason? Bakit? Any ideas, class? Why do you need to remove 3 to 4 drops from the pipette? Why do you need to remove 3 to 4 drops from the pipette? Okay, yes, aside from contamination, pwede. Okay, just to give you a clear understanding. Remember, class, the last fluid you took was your diluting fluid. Now, you expect that this area will be concentrated. Very concentrated yan. Kasi di ba ang blood nyo, andito siya, 0.5. Ngayon, pag inaspirate nyo na yung diluting fluid, aakyat si blood. Now, ang papalit dito sa area na to will be concentrated diluting fluid. So imagine if you don't remove 3 to 4 drops from the pipette, ang mababasa mo lang dun sa counting chamber nyo, puro diluting fluid. This will cause a falsely decreased erroneous result ng platelet. Okay? So that's the reason why. To allow the diluted blood to be charged and to remove the concentrated diluted fluid. Okay? Then if you take note, class, mababa na to. Which is dito talaga yung pinaka-diluted blood nyo and diluent. So that's the reason. Then you're going to charge. So again, class, be careful not to overfill or underfill. So you have to make the perfect square. Dapat hindi siya underfill, hindi siya overfill. Okay? Walang bubbles. Then you have to allow the hemocytometer. So class, ito lang yung procedure na kailangan yung ipapastand yung hemocytometer nyo to allow the platelets to settle and to RBC to lyse. Kasi ganito yung class eh. Your platelets are very small. Very small sila, class. So imagine being small, you tend to become very light as well. So the moment na i-charge mo yan, makikita mo kagad sa microscope, gumagalaw-galaw sila, class. So you have to allow it to settle para makapaghanap sila ng position nila and you can read from there. Then this will also allow your RBCs to lyse. You don't want to see your RBC there kasi it could be mistaken tapos mamila mo, mamali ka. So you want them also to be destroyed. Okay? So that's the reason why. To allow the platelets to settle and RBC to lyse. Now, you have to count the platelets in the 5 intermediate squares. Class intermediate squares. So, dito ka lagi magpo-focus, class, sa platelet count sa central large square. Sige nga, quick recap tayo. How many intermediate squares are in your central large squares? Ilang intermediate? Sige nga. No, it's not Mr. King. That's WBC. The central large square. Ilan ang intermediate? Okay, very good, Ms. Torres. We have 25 intermediate squares. Class, another follow-up question. Sa isang intermediate square, ilan ang small squares? Ilan ang small squares? Alright, very good. Is allowed in. So it's 16. Now, if you're going to count 5 intermediate squares, ilan ang total ng small squares na binibilang nyo sa platelet count? Ilan? So it's 8. 80 small squares, class. So good job on understanding this. So almost similar naman with your RBC count. Are there any questions, class? There are none. So that ends your hemocytometer, class. That ends your hemocytometer.